So many of the Mefarshim want to connect the beginning of the Torah and the end of the Torah, and see what is the kesher between the end of Zos HaBracha and the beginning of Bereshis. So to understand that, we have to see how the Torah ends. So the Torah ends, it talks about Vayamas Shamosh Eved Hashem. We see that the Torah discusses the death of Moshe Rabbeinu. And today we live in a world where everyone's HaChassid, HaGadol, Rosh Hashiva, everyone's very big into names today. But we see the biggest compliment one could get is Eved Hashem. That's what the Torah calls Moshe Rabbeinu. And it goes through all its accomplishments. You see it's Mitzrayim, etc. We know the great accomplishments of Moshe. He took them out of Mitzrayim, Kriyas Yamsuf, Har Sinai, through the Midbar. So you expect the Torah would end with a climax. It would end on a high note. How does the Torah end? Le'enei kol Yisrael. In the eyes of Bnei Yisrael. What do you mean the eyes of Bnei Yisrael? So Rashi writes, Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos in front of Klal Yisrael. It reminds me of a story with the luchos. That I guess it was the way the story goes. There was a place in Eretz Yisrael, and the Board of Jewish Education was going around. There was a report about the school didn't have a good curriculum. They weren't teaching well, and the kids really weren't learning. So they went in to check. So one of the inspectors came in and saw one of the kids, and he said to the kid, Yeled, Mishi Beres Haluchos. Child, who broke the luchos? So the child, he's a stranger. He gets afraid. He says, Lo ani, lo ani. I didn't do it. So the inspector goes crazy. It's one thing, I knew the kids didn't know anything. Not to know Moshe Rabbeinu didn't break the luchos. He runs to the kid's teacher and says, you know what happened? I asked Yankel, Mishi Beres Luchos, and he said, go ani, what's going on here? So the teacher said, well, I know Yankel. He's a very honest boy, a lot of integrity. And if he told you he didn't break the luchos, you could believe him, he didn't break the luchos. So he goes on this crazy, he goes to the principal screaming, Scandal, scandal, what's going on here? So the principal's getting fed up with him and says, you know what, just tell me how much they cost and I'll pay for them, just get out of here. So why does the Torah end with the luchos? What kind of anticlimax is that? That's one question. Then how does the Torah begin? The Torah begins, Bereshis bara Elokim. So taken literally, the beginning created God. We know that's heresy, it's apicorsis. We believe God always was, always will be. What do you mean? So of course Rashi here on the spot writes, Eina mikrazu el darshuni. You're right. We can't read this pasuk literally. We have to go on to drush. In other words, the different levels. You could have hundreds of interpretations, but there are 4 different levels. It's known as pardes, an orchard. Pei is the pshat, the literal. Reish is remez, illusion. Drush is homiletical. And so it is mysticism. So Rashi says, you're right. When you come to the first pasuk, you can't read me literally, but you have to go down to the level of drush. Is that the way to start a Torah? Like I'm starting, I understand when I get maybe in the middle of Bereshis, I get to Shmos Vayikra, I understand then why I have to come on to Remez, Drush, and Sod. But the first pasuk in the Chumash, not to be taken literally, that doesn't make any sense. So we mentioned last time that the connection, we left off with a couple of questions. The Torah ends with the luchos. What kind of ending is it? V'einei kol Yisrael, talking about Moshe's accomplishments. We talk about the breaking of the luchos. And then the Torah begins, Bereshis bara Elokim, the beginning created God, the topic Karsis. So Rashi says, there are different levels of explanations, Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Sod, that this literal explanation, allusion, homiletical, and mystical, and we have to go to the third level. Is that the way to start the Torah, on a third level? Maybe when I get further into Bereshis or the next book, but it doesn't make any sense. The Torah begins that way. That's the second question. And thirdly, we know when it comes to the sixth day of creation, that the Torah writes Yom Hashishi. The Hey Hayidiyah. What's the Hey? So Rashi tells us, he quotes from Chazal, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a stipulation with the world on Vav Sivan, the Hashishi. If the Jewish people accept the Torah, good. If not, the world will go back to Tohu Vavohu. The world will go back to will be null and void. It will go back to Tohu Vavohu, nothingness. So let me ask you, was the Torah given on Vav Sivan? So we know Rabbi Yosef says no, it was Zayin Sivan. That Moshe hosted Midaito, he pushed it off. So the Torah was given on Zayin Sivan. So the world should be destroyed. The world's not, but yet it was still here, and it wasn't given on Vav Sivan. So what's the pshat over there? So Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky explains that the Torah was given on Vav Sivan. The Torah Shabbat Peh, the oral law, that was one of the things that Moshe Hosef Midaito. The God said, I want the Torah today. And Moshe said, no, let's give it tomorrow. And it was one of the things that God was masking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that God was masking to Moshe on. And in fact, that's the whole concept we went through this year. We know the first day of Sukkot fell on Shabbos. There's a mitzvah in our Torah to shake the dalaminim, yet the rabbis say no. Or there's a mitzvah in our Torah to hear the shofar on the Shabbos of the first day of Rosh Hashanah. And the rabbi said no. Where do they get that kind of power from? God says one thing, the rabbis say another. So it's only because the Torah tells us we have to listen to the Chachamim. The pasuk in Parashat Shoftim, L'sasem and Adavar Asher Yagidu L'cha Yamin L'smo. It says you have to don't turn away from the Chachamim, left and right. And the Sifri tells us, even if they tell you left is right and right is left, left is right and right is left, you have to listen. And Kal V'chomer, when they tell you right is right and left is left is left. So what's Pshat? So many people misinterpret this Sifri and Rashi. They think they're telling you that rabbinic law is binding in error. That if the rabbis make a mistake, you follow them anyway. That's not what it's saying. Because the first Mishnah in Krisos, the Ramban already points this out, the first Mishnah in Krisos talks about when Beis makes a mistake, the different karbanos you have to bring, the different types of atonement you need. So we see we don't accept a mistake. So that we know. But that's what Rav Chanan writes. So what does it mean when they tell you left is right, right is left? So number one, it's not that they're telling you it's wrong if you think. If you're not on the same level of scholarship as them and you think this left is right, right is left, this Judaism isn't talk radio. Everyone's opinion isn't equal. You're not credible, you don't have the same opinion. It's like they're right about other things and you have to follow them. If you know for sure they're wrong, that's something else. But Rav Chanan explains what does it mean left is right, that's referring to when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos. Or Sukkot falls out on Shabbos the first day. The Torah tells you blow shofar. The Chachamim say no. When they tell you left is right or right is left, you still have to listen to them. As the Rambam writes in Moreh Nevuchim, they only have limited power in terms of Zman and Azmanim. He gets a mashal if someone walks by and sees someone cutting off a person's leg. He thinks he's a butcher. When he gets closer, he sees it was a doctor and the person had gangrene and he saved his life. So it's true you lost a leg, but you saved his whole life. And that's what Chachamim sometimes have to tell us, no shofar this year, no Daled Minim, in order for the whole tzura of Klal Yisrael. So they point out that that's what it means. And that's what Rabbi Yaakov is explaining here. It's the koach of Torah Shabbat Peh. That's what they were teaching us. The Torah was given on Vav Sivan. The Torah Shabbat Peh was given. And it's coming to teach me, that's the yisod, that the Torah Shabbat Peh and the Torah Shabbat Ksav go together. The written law is a closed book without the oral law. And that's the message the Torah begins and ends with. The Torah ends with the luchos, La'ini Kal Yisrael. What kind of ending is that? Because that's one of the things that Moshe hosted Midaito, he broke the luchos. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Yasha kochacha sheshibarta. That's where we get Yasha koach after an aliyah. You've done well. You've broken the luchos. So the Torah ends with the luchos to signify the koach of Torah Shabbat Peh. In the same way the Torah ends, that's the way it begins as well. Bereshis bar Elokim, a pasuk that can't be taken literally. Eina mikrazil l'darshuni. Is that the way to begin a Torah? That's exactly the way. Don't make a mistake when you begin thinking you can just read, especially the book of Bereshis, where it's a bunch of stories. People think they could just, without knowing any of the commentators, Torah Shabbat Peh, they just give their own. There is room for your own explanations as well. But first you have to know what the Mefarshim say. People think it's just a bunch of stories, they have a license to say whatever they want. And that's what the Chazal would tell us when you begin Bereshis and when you, right until the end of Zos HaBracha, when you learn the Torah, you have to learn together with the Torah Shabbat Peh. The written law is only understood through the oral law, and that's what Yom HaShishi, that the Hey idea above season, it was the koach of Torah Shabbat Peh. That was given, and that's why the world is still there. And that's why, that's the message, and we go out and we learn all the parshios. Bereshis, Noach, Lechach, etc. We have to keep in mind, we can't just take the literal explanation of the Chumash, but we have to see what Chazal said about it, and see all the explanations of the Torah Shabbat Peh.